Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to declare the 77th Ordinary Annual General Meeting of the Racehorse Owners Association officially open. Thank you all for joining us today. As you know, COVID has seen some material changes to the way in which AGMs are hosted, and we thank you for your patience in these trying times. This meeting will begin with the formal AGM and will then be followed by the President's speech and our members' forum. We thank those members who have submitted questions in advance of the meeting. Due to the nature of this year's AGM, there will be no industry speaker. We'll now deal with the official procedures of the meeting and the articles to approve. The notice convening this meeting is set out on page 3 of the annual report, which has been circulated to all members. For the purposes of this meeting, it is taken as read. We will deal with the items set out in the annual report under Notice of Meeting. According to best corporate practice, I will announce the proxy vote after each resolution. I'd like to remind you that in accordance with the RRA's Articles of Association, 5 of today's resolutions are ordinary resolutions and therefore simply require a majority vote. One of today's resolutions is a special resolution, requiring 75% support for the resolution. Item A, to receive by ordinary way of ordinary resolution the co-option to the board of Ken McGarrity, Khalid Al-Mudaf and Charlie Liverton for the coming year. We've received 166 proxy forms supporting resolution A and 16 against. I declare the resolution carried. Item B, to receive by way of ordinary resolution the results of the election to fill vacancies on the board. No board members have retired this year. There were 10 candidates who stood for election to the board. There were 3 vacancies on the board, and as 10 candidates contested these 3 places, an online ballot was held. This was organised on behalf of the ROA by Civica, who have now provided us with the results. There were 178 valid votes counted. Full details of the voting results were circulated to members in July. I'm now pleased to inform the meeting that the following have been elected to the board: Philip Davies, MP, Celia Djivanovic, Mouse Hamilton Fairley. We received 172 proxy forms supporting Resolution B and 6 against. I declare the resolution carried. Item C, to confirm and adopt by way of ordinary resolution the report and financial statements for the 12-month period ended 31st of March 2021. We received 176 proxy forms supporting Resolution C and 2 against. I declare the resolution carried. Item D, to appoint by ordinary resolution RSM UK Audit LLP as auditors in accordance with Section 485 of the Companies Act 2006, as amended. We received 177 proxy forms supporting Resolution D and 1 against. I declare the resolution carried. Item E, to authorise by way of ordinary resolution the ROA board to fix the remuneration of the auditors. We received 176 proxy forms supporting Resolution E and 2 against. I declare the resolution carried. Item F, to approve by way of special resolution that with effect from the conclusion of the meeting, the draft Articles of Association in the form available at www.roa.co.uk/articles to this annual general meeting notice be adopted as the Articles of Association of the company in substitution for and to the exclusion of the company's existing Articles of Association, including the relevant provisions of the Memorandum of Association that would otherwise be treated as provision of the Articles under Section 28 of the Companies Act 2006, We have received 174 proxy forms supporting Resolution E and 4 against. I declare the resolution carried. That concludes the formal part of the meeting. I'd now like to invite our President, Charlie Parker, to address the meeting.
Good afternoon and thank you for tuning in. I'm already into my second year as President and again delivering my speech virtually. It is a shame, but I hope to be speaking to you all in person sometime in the near future. It has been a very difficult year for the sport. Less dealing with the initial shock of the virus, more focusing on the sport's recovery, ensuring we get things right now to protect the sport and its position into the future. In spite of that, I feel a bit of fresh air. It looks like racing and the country are returning to normal. We have people on courses, owners in paddocks, and our race courses and famous festivals beginning to pull crowds in significant numbers. In such a challenging year with an ever-changing landscapes of rules and regulations, I personally couldn't be prouder of the team here at the ROA. From the in-house team through to the executives and the board, everyone has given so much and worked so hard to support our owners through this pandemic. It has never been clearer how much racing contributes to this country, whether culturally, financially, or in the community. We have continued to put on a show when other sports were unable to, and has given everyone a lift. Owners have been key to the sport's ability to keep functioning, and even growing numbers of horses in training in certain categories. Without owners, this sport that we love so much just would not be possible. Our focus has been directed at the relationship between owners, the racecourses, and the financing of the whole industry, and this will continue. It is key that all of the sport's participants understand what owners require, from the race day experience and prize money returns, changes to administrative processes, or relations with trainers, jockeys, and the stable staff. Over the course of the last year, we have made real progress on structural changes that directly impact revenue for the sport and its owners. Alongside other bodies, we have pushed forward work across levy reform, prize money improvements, and corporate governance. As you all know, prize money remains a significant focus. Finding common ground amongst all participants in the sport hasn't been easy, but I'm confident that all in racing now understand how important prize money is to owners and also to trainers, jockeys and stable staff. We have devoted substantial time and effort into various initiatives to secure pre-COVID levels of prize money and grow it over the forthcoming years. Across levy contributions, racecourse executive contributions, and by helping to generate revenue growth across the whole industry. To secure these objectives, we need sensible and agreed levy reform and extension, and as well as that, agreements with racecourses around executive contributions. On those commercial agreements, the conversations and negotiations continue. The link between prize money, field sizes, horses in training and owners is established, and it is therefore in the interest of all parties to push forward and establish robust distribution mechanisms for all revenue inputs into the sport. Levy reform will continue to be a priority. With its clearly defined parameters, the levy is much more aligned to the sport's participants than racecourses and their revenue streams. Let us not forget it has funded most of our prize money this year, when racecourses did not. It is, in many ways, a direct revenue stream for owners in how it supports. We will be looking at how to secure fair and sustainable reform. When we benchmark the return that British racing receives from bookmakers across other countries, Britain is by a long way last. This has to change, especially in a post-Brexit world where Britain has to stand alone and attract inward investment, which I think will make this achievable. A cross-industry group on levy reform has already been working hard through the pandemic to find a solution. We are looking across overseas betting, and we are looking at the way the levy in itself is calculated. With the government's promised levy review and the Gambling Act review, there should be opportunities to engage with government. We will also have a job to protect gambling and levy revenue at the same time. The politics of it all will be difficult as ever, but we hope to make progress where possible over the coming year. Elsewhere, the ROA has made good progress on its own governance. Our internal corporate governance review has been completed with a series of progressive changes recommended. These changes really bring the association up to date in this crucial area. Meeting modern corporate governance standards will support the ROA in the future and help us to continue to support you, the owners. The first steps from this review's recommendations have already been taken. We have already started the transition to a skill-based board to broaden experience and representation. That transition includes the recent elections of Philip Davis MP, Miles Hamilton Fairley and Celia Djivanovic, who would I like to welcome and also welcome back. The new board members will bring a variety of experience and professional backgrounds to the board, and I look forward to working with them. The ROA has also taken steps to focus on welfare standards across the industry. This year, most notably in our work with the Horse Welfare Board on the aftercare review. Welfare, as many of you will have seen, continues to be a significant challenge across the whole industry. We need to ensure that we are putting our best foot forward and showing the equine world and the wider public how vital welfare is to our sport. The year as a whole has been a wake-up call for the industry, but has also shown opportunities for change and growth. The structure of British racing has to be looked at. We need to ensure that change can take place, that crucial decisions can be made, and that strong leadership can help grow and protect the sport, be it in revenue generation, growth, or regulation. We will ensure that the ROA continues to guide our sports leadership to improve ownership as an experience and as an investment and protect the future of racing. There are significant challenges in the recovery still to come, but the big questions facing the sport are also big opportunities. As we look to 2022, we will be focused as an organisation on delivering positive change for our members and for all owners. With our excellent team in place and the new initiatives being launched, it promises to be a year to make real progress. It's an honour and a pleasure to continue to fight for your interests as owners over the coming years. The turmoil of the last few years has never shaken my particular belief in the future of racing in this country. We are effective when we work together, with the ROA representing your interests and focused on putting the owner at the centre of racing. The future of racing will remain secure for years to come. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing many of you soon in person on the track. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Ahead of today, a number of members have sent in questions to be answered by the board. We will now answer some of those questions for you.
I'm answering a question about the effectiveness of the appearance money scheme on increasing field sizes. Now, that was certainly one of the objectives of the scheme when it was reintroduced in its current form in 2018. But the other objective was to increase owner returns, and that has certainly happened. As far as the field sizes are concerned, it's been inconclusive according to a report from the University of Liverpool carried out in 2019. Grassroots racing, however, is very important to the industry because it provides daily levy and media rights and also supports 20,000 plus employees in the industry. Levy reform and media rights is how we try and improve funding for the whole industry, and that's ongoing at the moment. But the ROA have been looking at how to use the current funds in order to try and distribute them as best as possible. So a prize money review group was set up in June of 2020 in order to look at placing more money with placed horses, to look at the appearance money scheme, and to look at other industry causes, with a view to a fairer distribution, supporting existing owners and attracting new owners, and boosting field sizes. At the end of the day, we have to have a balance on industry funding. The top tier is the showcase, as Ascot, Goodwood and York have shown recently, but we need to support other tiers, and therefore that we aim to do that and produce an opportunity for success at all levels.
I'm Louise Norman, and I work as the Head of Ownership at the ROA. This year, as part of our AGM platform, we asked our members to submit questions beforehand. One of the questions submitted to us related to the support available for syndicate managers and members. This year has seen a focus on syndication and group ownership as part of the ROA's strategy, but also in collaboration with the BHA, who undertook an industry-wide group consultation period. This group consultation resulted in a 12-step development plan being created. The first of these steps went live in May earlier this year and saw the new code of conduct developed for better understanding across syndicate managers and members. Further work will be created with communications to explain the next steps of this development plan. Further details can also be found at the BHA website, as well as the ROA syndication resources. In addition to the group consultation, the ROA has been working closely with GBR as the Great British Racing representation in order to create a promotional platform. This has been seen in the relaunch of In the Paddock, which has enabled us to create a centralised platform promoting syndication, but also offering valuable toolkits available to syndicate managers, whether setting up or creating further extensive knowledge as part of their ongoing business activity. In addition to these toolkits, the ROA has also launched comprehensive and supportive templates, both for syndicates as well as racing clubs. Further work is underway in relation to the promotional activity, and we will continue to keep our members updated. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Celia Djivanovic and I'm answering a question from Scotland about racecourse access for owners and the badge scheme. ROA benefits apply uniformly across the UK mainland. Now that all the COVID-related restrictions have been dropped, the racecourse badge scheme has been reactivated across the UK, including in Scotland. There are some new benefit enhancements for those members who aren't registered owners and are therefore not eligible for the racecourse badge scheme. These include access to ARC and Jockey Club racecourses and to Ascot and Cartmel. Full details and T&Cs are on the ROA website. All updates on the various racecourse admission schemes are included in the Inside Track, the daily news and update email which is sent to all members. A quick reminder that to use any of the admission schemes, you must pre-register through Pass, the ROA website or by phone. Post-COVID, you cannot just turn up on the day and expect to be admitted. We know that the race day experience and racecourse admission schemes are two of the most important issues for our members. Please keep leaving feedback on the website after your day at the races so we can address any problems and acknowledge the courses which are getting it right. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Thoroughbred Industry Brexit Strategy Committee started meeting about 3 or 4 years ago. We're still meeting. We expect to be meeting still in another 2 or 3 years. The government policy of get Brexit done and having got Brexit done may well sound great as a soundbite, but when you get down to the practicalities of everything, it is far more complicated than that. As we all know, before we left the EU, we operated within the boundaries of the tripartite agreement, which basically meant that horses could travel freely across the border between England, Ireland, France, backwards and forwards, no controls, no veterinary issues. We could simply put a horse on a horse box, drive it to Dover or wherever, go across the channel, and that was that. Well, of course, that has all changed. It's become a lot more complicated, and it's likely to become even more complicated. In fact, the new animal health certificates, which were due to be introduced on August the 21st, are now going to be introduced on January the 15th. So we'll know more about what problems we have after January of next year. But right now, the fact of the matter is that horses are moving across borders. There are horses going to France to race and to Ireland, and Irish horses are coming to the UK. The number of movements has reduced dramatically. Certainly in the case of mares travelling to Ireland to be covered, it's down from something like 2,700 to 933. Irish mares coming to visit English stallions has dropped by a similar percentage from 1,600 to 695. And I would imagine that the drop in horses moving across borders from the UK to race in Ireland and France has dropped by a similar kind of percentage, perhaps even more. The issues that we have to solve are: one, pragmatic, all of the paperwork required to get the horse across the border. Secondly, the veterinary checks, of which there are substantial now and likely to become even more substantial. And thirdly, the VAT situation, because we are now exporting a horse. When we take it to France to race, we are temporarily exporting it, and VAT would become relevant on that export. So in theory, we have to pay VAT on that horse going to France, which we can reclaim when the horse comes back. In fact, I understand at the present moment there are something like 600 VAT deposits that the Irish government is going to have to repay to GB-based mares, for example, that went to Ireland to be covered by Irish stallions. We're also looking at digital solutions and engaging with government in order to implement the digitalisation of horses' passports and all of the veterinary checks, which would make life a lot easier again after the next deadline of January the 15th. Sadly, dealing with government is not easy. Getting them to understand the issue is very complicated, and it's just very, very hard to start moving any of this forward. The VAT issue alone is probably as big a problem as any. We've managed to get around that with using carnets, which are expensive, of course, but it does save the necessity to pay the full amount of VAT and then to reclaim it, and the cash flow element of the fact that the reclaimed VAT would not be paid back for several months. It's all very complicated. It will remain complicated. We will never go back to the situation we were in before with the tripartite agreement where everything could move smoothly across the border. That is really it's like something that will never be able to be re-achieved. But we're coping, and hopefully we'll continue to cope, even though we may well get more difficult before we fully get to understand exactly what Get Brexit Done really does mean. Thank you very much.
Two further questions have been posed, which I will now ask Charlie Parker to respond. Charlie, can you confirm if you've agreed any formal prize money agreements with any racecourses? Yes or no?
No, we haven't confirmed. We haven't concluded those discussions. They are ongoing. They are difficult in that there are different groups that need to be talked to and agreements shaped. Obviously, whilst the lack of crowds and lack of revenue streams were in place and the levy supporting prize money, the urgency was not necessarily there. However, as we approach January next year, the intention is to have agreements in place that control the distribution of revenue into the sport. It's not easy, but we remain hopeful.
And the second question that's been posed is, when will the ROA be able to change racing structure to improve the lot of owners?
Well, it's an interesting question. The ROA is working with the RCA and the BHA, and along with its colleagues in the Horsemen's Group, to look at how it's structured and how the sport is run. And that's an ongoing discussion, an ongoing piece of work. And it's under constant review and has been over many years, but it's definitely high up the agenda and something that we are looking at as we speak.
Thank you. There are still a few outstanding questions. We'll respond directly to those members who kindly submitted them in due course. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning. And I can confirm that the 2021 Racehorse Owners Association Annual General Meeting is now concluded. Thanks for joining, and a special thanks to those who have joined us from overseas this year. We look forward to seeing you on a racecourse soon, and we all thank you for your support once again.